Right now, it's not too busy, which means you can probably get a test booked within about a week of whenever you want to take it, right? Depending on whereabouts in the world you are, of course, right? But yeah, you book through this test through your student account. You will be required to, link your ID and all that kind of stuff, of course. Okay. And then you get access to all the different services here. There's a couple of quick things that I just want to point out for those of you who are a bit new to this test and have never really gone through this website before. Okay, there's quite a lot of useful information. Now, if you haven't had a chance to go through our lectures yet, there is a bit of a quick summary for the guide and test format. I won't go through this today because I'm sure most of you are fairly familiar with it already. But if you don't know what each question type is like, you can go to each section here and it will tell you the total duration of each section. And there's a short summary of each question type. It's not super detailed, right? But for anybody completely new to the test, this would be the first place you should have a look before coming to our lecture series on problem solving, of course. Okay. So that's, of course, there. The other thing that you're going to want to pay attention to is if you go to the 4 test takers here, right, and click this, right. One thing that's important to know is that there are currently now 5 different PTE scored practice tests. Okay, so if you come down here, unfortunately, they're not free. You do have to buy them, right? There's a total of 5 of them now, versions A, B, C, D, and E. E is the latest new one that you can buy. It's also significantly cheaper now, as you can see. Right, all the versions. This used to be about $80. It's dropped down to $36 recently. So apparently, there's been a bit of a discount. Right now, I haven't actually taken the test again. I haven't taken one of these mock tests yet since a bit earlier last year. But what it says here, if you look at the if you look here. Let me just quickly find where it says it. Okay, yeah. So if you have a look here, it says scored practice tests A, B, C, and D are the same tests as the previously named versions 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Now, this is not extremely clear, but the original 1, 2, 3, and 4 were 3-hour exams, not the same as the current 2-hour format. I'm not 100% sure whether or not they've maintained it at 3 hours or whether they've just used it as a question pool and then reduced it to the current number of questions. Okay, but either way, one thing that I have said to everyone is I strongly recommend that you take at least one of these tests before you go to your exam. Okay, these marked practice tests are actually a really good way to assess your performance to see how well you're doing right now. The scores that it gives you are relatively accurate, usually within about plus or minus about 5 marks of what you would get at a real test center. Okay, and you should generally do at least one about 2 weeks before you take an exam. That way you have a good idea of what you need to practice in the last 2 weeks, kind of the last minute preparation going into the test, right? It's not necessary for you to do all 5 of them, right? And there's no particular preference of which one you should be doing. Okay, some people have told me that some of them are a little bit easier or harder than the other ones. In the end, it doesn't matter because the PTE is a rank-based test. Okay, so it doesn't matter if the questions are easy or hard. It won't really change your ranking compared to other students. Yeah, so as I said, it is a little bit expensive, unfortunately, but I do strongly recommend that you do at least one. This will give you a much, much more accurate representation of your score compared to, all the different apps and stuff that you see online these days. All right. So that's the first thing I just want to very quickly say. The second thing is that they have released a new version of the PT score guide. If you look in your materials, in the week 1 materials, there is a score guide that is included. However, this is the old version, the 3-hour version of the exam. Okay, the new version contains a couple of little updates to the marking scheme, but the most important thing starts on page number 10. Okay, which is the changes in terms of the overall timing. Yeah. Now, I'm sure William has probably already gone through some of these in his lecture last night, but just in case you were not there to listen to that one, I'll just go over a couple of just slightly more important ones, let's say. Okay. So as you can see, not every single question type has changed, right? It's mainly these ones. There's a total of 11 out of the 20 question types have had some kind of change to their total question number, right? And I guess here, the most important thing that you want to pay attention to is how this affects the relative weightings of each section. Okay, so in the speaking section, to put it simply, every single question has had its numbers reduced pretty much, okay, except, and this is important, except the read aloud and the repeat sentence, right? Or the other way you should think about it is all the template tasks have had their weightings reduced. So describe, image, and retail lecture are the two that we care about the most, right? Because they used to be very, very highly weighted. Now that the number of questions of each one has been reduced significantly, almost halved, right? This essentially means that they are worth less, right? So the speaking section will still be very valuable, but unfortunately, you don't get as much of a benefit from doing template memorization for your fluency and pronunciation compared to the past. Okay, it's still definitely an important thing for you to practice, but your read aloud and your repeat sentence will be more valuable in comparison now. So the basic skills are more important. Okay, answer short question. This one doesn't matter too much. And the summarized written text also slightly fewer. This is actually probably good news for most people who are having trouble with the summary tasks, right? The fact that this weighting has significantly reduced. Yeah. Okay. In the reading section, just the multiple choice, basically no change. We don't care too much about those. And in the listening section, you can see that most of the different question types, right, all the multiple choice ones have had the number of questions reduced by 1. The most significant change here actually is the summarized spoken text, because this used to be the big, another source of big marks, right? And this one has been reduced. So that means that now the write from dictation in particular kind of, once again, increases its overall percentage in terms of importance, right? That write from dictation is going to have a huge effect on your overall listening and writing scores, right? But other than that, as William's mentioned a few times that I've heard, the test overall will be a little bit more relaxing, mostly just because 2 hours, right, is a lot more relaxing than 3, and you won't feel as tired or lose focus nearly as much towards the end of the test. Yeah, so overall, those are some good changes. Now, as usual, because that was a score guide, because this is a score guide, it also has the current way that each thing is marked, right? This is pretty much the same. I've had a quick look at this. There's not too much difference between this one and the 2019 version, which we previously handed out. Okay, so they have descriptions as usual of every single question type, how each one is marked. Unfortunately, most of them are qualitative, which means it doesn't specifically tell you how the computer marks it. It just describes the types of things that you're talking about, right? But if you are interested in having a look at each individual question and how the scores are calculated, you can definitely have a look there. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. There you go. That's it for that one. As usual, I don't think it's necessary for you to carefully read and memorize the entire score guide. But if you are interested in the changes, that will be the place to go.